In this video, we're going to look at some of the latest IELTS speaking questions. I'm going to give you some example answers and we're going to learn some new vocabulary. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, these questions come from August 2024. And we're going to start off with some basic questions. So in part one, it's questions about everyday topics. And the first topic we're going to look at today is small businesses. The first question is, do you know many small businesses where you live? Now, I have prepared an answer for this, but if you want to pause the video and prepare your own answer, do that now, and then you can compare it to mine. So I would say, my hometown is famous for lace making, and although the larger lace factories have closed down now, there are still some independent businesses keeping the tradition alive. Their artisanal products are sold at craft fairs and in local souvenir shops. It's important for small businesses to support each other. So I'm talking about my hometown. I'm sure you know something around your area. You could, of course, focus on small shops. Just avoid things that have many branches of the same shop or any large factories. Here are some of the vocabulary that I used in my answer. There's lace making. So a person is making this fabric. A craft fair, where lots of people sell things in small booths. Artisanal means it is handmade or in a very small batch and is often describes special products. And then souvenirs, things that come from a place that you've been to remind you of that place. Next question, still on the topic of small businesses. Have you ever worked for a small business? Let's have a look at my answer. When I was in secondary school, I did a work experience placement in a local garage. My responsibilities included cleaning the cars, answering the phone, and making cups of tea for the mechanics. Although I didn't go on to work in a garage full time, it was still useful to see how a small business operates, and it was an enjoyable experience. Let's look at some of the vocabulary. Work experience in UK schools, students often go into a business for a week or two and learn how to do the job of that business. They might help out with some basic tasks and get some experience. A garage is a place where cars go to be fixed. Mechanic is the person who does that work. And full-time means you do that job usually 9 till 5 days a week, but you do it for most of your time. Next question on the topic of small businesses. Have you ever thought about starting your own small business? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but you can always make something up. As long as the examiner doesn't know it's not true, it doesn't have to be completely true. Here is my answer. When I was younger, I thought about starting my own graphic design business. I always enjoyed creating logos and using design packages on my computer. For example, I would make a new badge for my favourite football team or stylize the name of a band that I liked. Nowadays, though, most people use AI to design their own logos, so it's lucky I didn't start a business. Here is graphic design, when you use technology to design pictures. Logo, lots of brands have their own logo. It's a picture that's associated with a brand. Badge, so I mentioned a badge for a team, might have the team name and most sports teams have a badge. Stylized means that a picture is drawn in a different style, so it doesn't look exactly like the thing, but you know what it is. It's easy to recognize. Next topic we're going to talk about in part one is chocolate. The first question about chocolate. Do you like eating chocolate? Why or why not? Here is my answer. I think almost everyone likes chocolate, and I'm no exception. I definitely have a sweet tooth. I love biting into a bar of chocolate and feeling it melt in my mouth. My favourite is milk chocolate with a salted caramel filling, or dark chocolate with a mint fondant centre. I know chocolate isn't particularly good for your health, but eating it in moderation is fine. Here's some of the vocabulary that I've used. Sweet tooth. So we say someone has a sweet tooth if they enjoy eating sweet foods. Caramel is a melted sugar syrup that is often poured on desserts or found inside chocolate. Fondant, a kind of icing. This is again a sweet and sticky substance with different flavours. And then towards the end I used the phrase in moderation. So it means not too much, not too little. Next question about chocolate. Did you often eat chocolate when you were a kid? Notice this is asking you about the past, so your answer should have a range of verb tenses. Here is my answer. I can remember my grandparents bringing chocolate when they visited, which I had to share with my siblings. But we didn't have chocolate very often. I preferred gummy sweets. I used to love filling a bag of pick and mix. My particular favourites were fizzy cola bottles. These days, chocolate would be my first choice, but that wasn't the case when I was younger. Let's look at some of those words highlighted in bold. Siblings is a general term for brothers and sisters. Pick and mix. In UK shops, you can often find these as different types of sweets, and you can choose how many and which ones you want, and you put them in a bag and then pay for them based on the weight. Gummy sweets are these kind of fruit flavoured chewy sweets, and fizzy cola bottles, they're my particular favourite type of gummy sweet. Next question about chocolate. Do you think chocolate is a good gift to give to others? So it's asking about your opinion here. Let's look at my answer. Chocolates are a very popular gift choice for occasions such as birthdays, Christmas, and Valentine's Day, and I think they're a good idea for a present. Even though it's not very imaginative, most people would be happy to receive a sweet treat to show that you're thinking about them. You can buy a luxury brand of chocolates if it's for someone special. Let's look at that vocabulary. So Valentine's Day in the UK, that's on the 14th of February. It's when you give presents and cards to the one you love. Imaginative, this describes something that has been thought up and is quite creative. A sweet treat is a rhyming phrase that talks about any kind of food that is high in sugar. And then luxury brands, there are some examples, some luxury brands, high-end, expensive brands, and chocolate also comes in luxury brands. Now let's look at part 2, which is the long turn. For part 2, you're given a topic, you have 1 minute to think about it, and then you have to speak for 2 minutes. So first, let's look at the topic. Describe a website you often visit. You should say what it is about, how you found about this website, how often you visit it, and explain why you often visit this website. You will have 1 minute to think about it, and you can make some notes if you want to. Again, pause the video now if you want to create your own answer. Otherwise, let's have a look at what I have prepared. So describe a website you often visit. There are many websites that I visit regularly for work or entertainment purposes, but the website I'd like to tell you about today is called Fantrax. Fantrax is a fantasy sports website which allows people to select a team of real sports players who score points for your team when they play in real life. You can then join a league with your friends and compete against them throughout the season. In my case, I have joined a league with my friends and we choose players from the English Premier Football League. Each week, I go onto the site to set my team for the weekend, decide which players will be substitutes and which ones will start, and decide if I need to make any transfers. Of course, just because I've decided to start the player in my game doesn't mean that they will start in real life, so sometimes the player scores no points at all, which is frustrating. Players can earn points for all sorts of things. Scoring goals, of course, but also for keeping clean sheets, for assists, and even for making accurate passes. They can also lose points if they get booked, for instance, or for letting in goals. The game can be annoying at times, when you make the wrong choices ahead of the games, but overall it's good fun, and I have been quite successful over the years. The website has a range of tabs where you can explore the player's statistics and carry out various functions for your team. There's also a chat function where players in your league can discuss the games, and each player starts with a budget they can use to buy new players who might be signed by real teams during the season. Overall, I'd say I visit this website several times a week during the football season, but for just a few minutes at a time. Right, that is the end of my speech. So let's have a look at some of the vocabulary I introduced there. So we have league. This shows the teams that are competing and the number of points they have. The idea is to finish top of the league at the end of the season. Substitutes. Now these are players who are backup for the first team. They will wait on the bench, and during the game they may be brought on by the manager, or they may just sit there for the whole match. Transfers. This refers to a person who is signed by one team from another. So if they move teams, that's called a transfer. Then we have frustrated. You can see in the picture that woman looks very frustrated. It's annoyed, it's angry, it's disappointed, all at the same time. We have assist. So the person who scores the goal will get lots of points, but the person who gives them the ball to score the goal, that's an assist. So when you make the final pass before the goal is scored, that's an assist. I talked about players being booked. This is also called a yellow card. So the referee is showing the yellow card to the player who has committed a foul. And then budget talks about an amount of money that you are given and you can choose what to spend it on. Moving on to part 3, and this is discussion questions. So these questions will be a bit more difficult than the part 1 questions. They will be related to your part 2 topic, and the examiner may choose to discuss some of your answers further. So my part 2 topic was about a website. So the part 3 questions are going to be related to that. The first one says, in what ways do old and young people use the internet differently? Part 3 often likes to compare two things. So in this case, it's old and young. Now you might not know exactly how old and young people use the internet, but you can probably make some guesses. Let's have a look at the answer I have prepared. Nowadays, an increasing percentage of the older generation are getting online. These silver surfers, as they're known, probably use the internet in many of the same ways as younger people, although I'm sure there are some differences. They will all use the internet for shopping, for instance, although different age groups may buy different things. Perhaps older people prefer to read the news online, or use the internet to keep in touch with extended family, whilst younger people use it more for downloading games, streaming music, or using social media. Okay, these are just a few ideas of the differences. You may be able to choose some examples from your own life. Maybe you have a grandparent who loves to use the internet to play games. So there will always be some people that don't fit in with what is expected. Let's look at some of the vocabulary. Silver surfers. This is a nickname given to older people who use the internet. Extended family. So brothers, sisters, parents, grandparents, these are your immediate family. Extended family includes aunts and uncles, nieces, nephews, these kinds of cousins, these kinds of people. Streaming music is where you listen to music online using one of these apps perhaps, or a website, as opposed to having the music file on your phone and just listening to your MP3. And then social media, this refers to any website or app that you use to communicate with others, to share about your life and to read about them. Next question. Why do some people prefer to get their news from the internet instead of TV? Okay, so this question is asking about asking your opinion, to speculate on something, and to think about experience and use some evidence in your answer. Here is my answer. The main reason why someone might prefer to use the internet as a source of news is convenience, in my opinion. People can easily access up-to-date information from their phones, often for free, wherever they happen to be and at a time that suits them. They can also choose how much of the story they want to read, or if they want to skip a news item that does not interest them. If they choose to use the TV, they have to tune in at a specific time and listen to all of the stories the channel chooses to cover. One downside, however, is that internet news may not always be reliable. Again, at this point you can talk about yourself. Which one do you prefer? You might want to talk about people you know, perhaps, if they have a different opinion, or maybe they're the same as you. But let's look at some of the vocabulary. Up to date means it is the newest or the latest one. Skip, you can skip a news story or skip a song, means you move on to the next one. Downside, this is another word for a disadvantage. And reliable describes something that you can trust. It can also be used to describe a person who turns up on time and does a good job. They're a reliable person. And final question. Do you think that we still need libraries? Right, this is quite a big question. You don't really get much thinking time in part 3. You need to start answering straight away. But this is asking about your opinion, and so you will need to use some evidence to back it up. Here's my answer. It is true that people don't use libraries as much as they did in the past, but that doesn't mean we should get rid of them altogether. Libraries are invaluable resources where members of the public can access information for free. The information in libraries is more likely to be accurate than on the internet, as anyone can publish their work online, whether it is correct or not. Nowadays, libraries often have free internet access for the community and also rent out music, magazines, and manga and comics, so they really have something for everyone. Now, you could also mention how libraries hold a lot of community events nowadays, or how university libraries are still very popular, or how it might be a good place to take small children so that they can start to learn how to read and grow their own love of reading for their lives. So I think there's lots of other things you could add in here. Let's look at some of the vocabulary. Get rid of is a phrase that means to throw something away. So we wouldn't be throwing away the library, but just closing them down and stopping using them. So I'm using the phrase get rid of. Invaluable describes something that is so valuable that you can't really put a price on it. Something that's vital or necessary, or has immeasurable value. It looks like it might be the opposite of valuable, but that's not the case. Then we have accurate. Here we see 3 arrows going straight into the bullseye. So accurate means it is exact or specific. And then we have manga and comics, which are drawn storybooks, but they're actually very good for building vocabulary. Right, well, I hope you enjoyed my answers and found some of this useful. Good luck with your upcoming IELTS test. Keep studying and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.